my name is Iliana. I work at HubSpot as a global partner program manager, and I recently published my book called Inbound PR with WILEY. Since then, lots of people have been asking me, well, how did you write the book? How long did it take you? What does it look like to work with a publisher? So I run a couple of sessions at HubSpot as trainings, more as learning sessions. And I've also heard from other people from various other companies or colleagues and friends asking me a lot of these questions. So I decided that I'm going to shoot a very quick video and run you through the couple of slides that I had created for when I run those training sessions. All right, I really want to give you some practical tips and tricks. But before I get on, I also want to make sure that you know, well, who am I in the first place, right? So, as I said, my name is Iliana. I know it has a bit of a difficult spelling, I-L-I-Y-N-A. I'm Bulgarian. I've lived in 4 countries, I speak 4 languages. So if you're wondering where my accent is coming from, you probably got your answer just now. As I said, I work in the partner program at HubSpot. And before that, I work with over 200 agencies, marketing, content, PR, and so on from across EMEA to help them grow their businesses as a consultant. And as I said, I recently published my first book, Inbound PR, the PR Agency's Manual to Transforming Your Business with Inbound, with WILEY. And really that book combines everything that I know from having worked in PR agencies actually before joining HubSpot for about 3 years. And then having spent actually 2.5 consulting agencies. All right, you can find me everywhere online. I'm quite active, so tweet me and so on. All right. Now, what do I know about books? As I said, I just published my first book. However, I have also got all my dissertations published as books, hard copies and Kindles as well. And that was not something that I actively did. I actually got proposals from those publishing companies for my dissertations. Both of them were around communications, either social media or PR. And this was indeed an interesting process, but I've always had the goal in mind that I am going to publish my own book one day, and hopefully even more than just one book. I also want to mention that I'm 28, so relatively young to have published a book with WILEY, and WILEY, a very well-known name in the publishing industry, specifically for business and academic books. Now, what I want to run you through really is a couple of things. Idea creation around the book, tips on writing it, and then also tips on publishing. Okay, but before we get on, why write a book in the first place? I think there are a couple of important reasons apart from really being passionate and wanting to do it and it being a personal goal. I think everything needs to have a bigger purpose. And for me, in particular, everything evolves around sharing what I know. I've been running my own blog for over 6.5 years, exactly with that goal. I initially started to learn more, to improve my writing and so on, but it turned out to be that I really want to help and share the knowledge that I have. It also helps you build your brand, right? Not just the book, the blog, but generally your writing makes your name. Right now, I'm the expert on inbound PR. That's sort of like how my brand grew over the years, and particularly now with the book being published. And it also helps people and organizations grow better. I think that aligns really well with our mission at HubSpot, which is to help millions of organizations grow better. Knowledge helps others. I think that's the key thing when it comes to books and blogs and generally writing. And what inspired me to write a book? I still remember back in the day when I was a student, I studied international business. I had a module in marketing that really got me interested in like social media and so on. I started researching, and the first person that I started following on Twitter was Brian Solis. And he started in PR back in the day. That's how I found him, basically. I just had an interest in PR. Social media was expanding at the time. He was finding ways to combine it. He's generally a futurist. For those of you that don't know him, he's a terrific speaker, in my opinion, and he's got some really inspiring books. So when I got into PR in general and communications as well, it was his books that I read, and I said to myself, and I was probably 21, well, I am going to write a book one day. So really, I think the key learning here is that you need to set goals, even if they're long-term, but you need to dream big. Everything is possible. There's nothing you can't do. All right. Now, let's get into those practical tips that I promised. How to develop the idea for your book. I think there's two important things when it comes to a book being viable and of interest to a publisher or to a reader. And also something, of course, that you'd be able to pull off. Number one is passion fit. You need to know what is it that you like? What do you enjoy? What are you really good at? A book takes a long time to create and write. It requires a lot of patience. And it requires a lot of inspiration and motivation as well. So if you don't like your topic, you're probably not going to be able to pull it off. But as much as you might be passionate, if there's no interest in the market, if there's no gap, so to say, that you're solving with your writing and with your ideas, probably no one is going to buy your book. So you really need to think about the problems that you're solving. And when you find the linking piece between these two, passion fit and market fit, I think then you've got your book idea. Now, this doesn't happen like that, right? Like you're going to have to experiment a little bit and learn about, what your readers like and also learn about yourself as well. But what I would like to say here too is that planning makes or breaks your book. You're going to have to plan long term for the book. Either it's going to be published by you or a publisher. We'll talk about that later on. But generally, you're going to have to plan every step around the book, from the ideas to the writing to the publishing and so on. So bear that in mind from the beginning. Also, what I recommend doing is, especially in the beginning when you haven't nailed down your idea yet, dumb down all of your thoughts and ideas on paper or in Google Docs or Evernote, however you like to work. And you'll refer back to them at a later stage. But just make sure that you write them down, because in your head, you're probably going to be getting a lot of thoughts. And you don't want to lose any one of them. Worry about perfection later. That doesn't matter at this stage. Like, perfection is going to come towards the end at the editing process. Right now, you just want it all out there. And there are a couple of things you can do with regards to getting an idea. Obviously, you want to brainstorm there. You want to research, is my idea viable? And you want to define some of the subtopics. You can talk to colleagues. You can do some sort of like discussion groups. You can use different tools as well to test the idea, such as, for example, we have a content strategy tool, and then you can use answer to the public. Like, generally, you're looking almost like, what is my topic? What are my subtopics? Or some important keywords. So this is an example with our content strategy tool, where I've used inbound PR as the main topic, and then I'm getting some other subtopics as ideas. And then this is also answer the public as an idea with regards to public relations. So you can certainly search around like certain topics or main or key ideas that you have to see how much there is around them. And then what you also want to do is obviously test that, and that happens through content creation. This is exactly that approach that I took with my book on inbound PR, because you want to see what type of feedback you're getting. Instead of, spending months and months writing and working then with your publisher, publishing the books, and then not getting any resonation whatsoever from your readers, you may as well do that earlier. And, you can start a blog today. You can write on Medium, LinkedIn. There's so many options for you to test that and to do public speaking as well. This is another great idea. So for me, what worked? Well, as I said, I started blogging. That was about 3 years ago that I published my first blog post on the inbound PR. People started, writing feedback that it's very valuable, that it's all correct, that it all makes sense. I started being invited to do public speaking. I spoke at Inbound 2016, one of the largest inbound conference in the world with 20,000 visitors. People were generally saying that, oh yes, this makes sense. We want the next thing. What's the next level? And then at the end, obviously, you want to combine all the thoughts that you sort of have and that you've dumped down. That's part of your planning. Some things here could be, you can put it in a mind map, or you can simply draft a logical timetable. I'll show you in a second. But you want to make sure that you have like a structured, planned sort of way of like all your thoughts and your brainstorming around the idea that you have. I couldn't find my picture of my mind map, but I promise you I had one when I was at this stage of the process last year. But I did find my V1 of my table of content. This is sort of like how it started, with my initial ideas for the title and so on. But this really helped me then nail down my writing, as I'll show you in a bit. All right. So this is sort of like how you want to do it. You want to brainstorm, you want to test, you want to combine all those ideas, and at the end you want to have like a finished product of a table of contents for all your chapters. And by no means do I want to say that I'm an expert at this, right? I've just published sort of like my first real book, but I'm only sharing with you my key learnings and what really works for me. It may not work for you, and that's totally fine. All right, so now we get to the writing part. Do you know when people get stuck when they start writing? I read that somewhere in a study. Apparently, that's at page 3. Because we start to self-doubt ourselves. We start to say to ourselves, I have nothing to say. I've said it all. No one's going to be interested in my writing. No one's going to find this useful or interesting. In general, we are very much unconfident people. Maybe not, we don't show up as such, but in our heads, we sure are. So, you want to be aware of the self-doubt, right? Certainly, that's something that can kill your writing, and you don't want to do that. The more public speaking you do, the more you see how people find your content useful, and the more you continue doing it. So don't doubt yourself. Leave those thoughts for later and just keep going. Also, I think what's going to help you keep going is creating a routine. I'll show you what certain habits work for me later on, but that's definitely going to allow you to continue. And then, as I said, I read on Thrive that you make or break your day during 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. Granted, there are people that are night owls. I know for myself that I'm an early morning person. So if you are an early morning person, you do want to leverage that time when you're most productive. And I'll show you how I made it work for me exactly using this principle. As I said, I'm an early riser. I wake up at 6 in the morning, and between 6 and 7:30, I usually do work. And so I decided that instead of doing my emails in the morning, I'm going to write for 1 hour a day between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. every work day. Honestly, that's what made it for me, and that's how I managed to finish 40,000 words in 2 months. Granted, I had a lot of content on my blog that I reuse and expanded on. However, this took me 2 months, and before that, it took me a year and 2 months probably to actually sit down, because I had my table of content that I showed you earlier, but in my head, everything was like, oh my God, this book's such a massive big deal. I can't do this. This is too much. And only when I broke it down into such a tangible little habit on a daily basis did I make it work. Now, what I also did is I didn't care about perfection, right? I wrote the same way as I talk so that people understand it, and people enjoy my writing on my blog that way. They don't want like complicated terms. They just don't have the bandwidth or the headspace for any of that, right? They take a book to learn. Don't make it hard on them. So just dump it all there, worry about editing later, and just don't make it sound pretty. Just be yourself. So a couple writing tips. If you're not the person that likes to sit down and just write, like you can obviously use voice memos to record stuff. And I think there are also applications where you record and they put it in writing. You can just edit them. Also, make sure that you have Evernote or Google Docs or whatever at your fingerprints on your phone, because you have ideas random places while you sleep and like so on. You don't want to make sure you don't want to forget any of those. I recommend Grammarly at a later stage. Typically, what I used to do is finish a whole chapter. So dump everything, finish a whole chapter, then start editing it a little bit, and then using Grammarly to make sure that it's okay. And if you're not the type of person that want to deal with this, obviously you can always hire someone. So for example, from Upwork.com, not going to cost you too much to proofread and edit if you don't want to deal with that. Granted, if you work with a publisher later on, you have an editor, but you're still not going to want to like submit to them grammar mistakes and stuff like that. And also, finally, that refers back to the whole self-doubt thing. You don't assume that the reader knows, right? Like, don't doubt yourself. They will learn from you. Everything is new and worthwhile, and don't think that it isn't, all right? People will listen to you, provided that you're authentic and you really share what you know with them. And finally, remain focused and persistent to hitting your goal, right? You've set yourself a goal, you want to write a book, or maybe you just want to write for 1 hour a day every day during the week. Just keep doing that. That's how I managed to finish my book in 2 months. How to publish the book. Now, 2 things here. You can either work with a publisher or you can self-publish. I'm not an expert or either of those. Again, I'm only sharing what I know and what I've heard and what I've sort of experienced on my own. But basically, I'll start with getting a publisher, give you some examples of how that worked with me, and then I'll give you some tips on self-publishing from what I've heard from other authors who have self-published that I've spoken to. So on the publishing side of things, you can research the publishing houses. I knew from the beginning that I wanted to publish with WILEY. Why? Because Brian Stollis, David Mormon Scott, like authors that I admire, have published with them. So that was the number one choice for me. I didn't know if it was going to work out, but I went for it. But there are a ton of other publishing houses that you can research, especially with regards to whatever area you are writing in. And then when after I knew that I wanted to write with WILEY, I probably read through the entire website to figure out what are the things that they require and need from an author. And as you can see here, in their process, they require a proposal. They give you a template to complete for that. You need to submit your proposal, and only then do you get into, once approved, preparing a manuscript and so on and so forth. Now, I'm probably one of the different kinds of people. I actually had a full proposal when I pitched them. I figured out who to email. I sent them a very quick email essentially saying that I want to write with them, that I want to publish my book with them, why the book was important, my CV, my proposal that I had found on the website, my full manuscript. This is not the usual process. Typically, writers have only a little bit done. I already had 40,000 words in a video of my public speaking. So that's the first step that I took, right? I found the right contact. As you can see, that's happened in March last year. And then after that, what's going to happen is that they will want to hear from you, and they will want to know that you actually have an audience and you can pull this off, right? It's not only just about why is the book unique. Sure it is. However, it's also about you. Why are you the expert on that? Why should you be the person that people should listen in on this space? And they will also ask about as I said, the audience that you have. How many people can you reach with that book? What channels are you going to use? Is your company going to help you? Do you have blogs? What are the numbers over there? What about your newsletter subscribers and so on? Do you know other people? Do you have contacts and networks that can help you? What other types of opportunities will you include in the book? Or generally, is there, do you have a clients list or partner list or whatever that you can reach with those books? In overall, what other events are you going to speak at? What events have you spoken in the past? Really, do you have a voice? Overall, they're figuring out what type of marketing opportunities can you own on your own so that you can drive sales for your book. And I think this is very, very, very key over here, because your publisher will take care of design, imprinting, and distribution, but they're not going to promote your book. That's going to be on you to drive sales and marketing for it. Believe me, it takes a lot of time because you put so much effort in the book, and then continuously you're going to have to promote it. So it's been a terrific process, though, working with WILEY. I'm very, very, very happy with the turnout. I love the way the book looks right now. It's on Kindle, audiobook, absolutely everywhere. It's giving me a lot of leverage. And certainly the thing there is that, of course, you get commission on that. And I think the very key difference there is that with self-publishing, you sort of own the entire process. But just to finish off on this one, bear in mind that if you work with a publisher, you're going to have very strict deadlines that you're going to have to keep with them in terms of submitting your final manuscripts, edits, ideas for design, and so on. You're going to have to get your own endorsements and forwards. You get an editor, which is great, right? You receive options probably for the design, probably. It's not, you're not going to design it, obviously. You focus on the writing. Your publisher is going to deal with everything else apart from promotion, as I said, because your publisher has the contacts to Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and all the other houses out there. Only know it takes about a year or even more from pitch to publication, depending on how much you have, written down. Right. On the self-publishing options, I said probably the biggest benefit on the self-publishing options is that you sort of own the entire process and the financial benefit out of it. As I said, I'm not an expert here, but from what I've heard, Amazon have a super option there to publish on Kindle and on audio as well, to self-publish. And I think what you need to know here, though, is that if you're going to self-publish, you're going to have to not only write the thing, but also promote it on your own, edit it, design it, market it, distribute it, etc., and really build sort of those relationships with Amazon and all the other bookshops as well. So it's a hefty process, and you're going to have to make sure that you know you want to do it. So finally, to finish it off, it's a long process, and you do need to have strong goals and break them down into little habits to make it work. It really is about finding your sweet spot between, as I said, your passion and then the market viability. And then finally, I think it's all about helping and influencing. I think a book is a fantastic option for you to share what you know and teach other people what you've experienced and what you've learned. So I would, though, finish on the note that you're going to have to build a brand before you even start writing a book. That's my personal opinion. That's how I managed to write a book in 2 months. That's how I managed to get a book deal with WILEY. That's how I'm still managing to sell books. If no one knows you, it's going to be so much harder for you to, in both options, to get a publisher or to self-publish on yourself. So if there's one thing I want to say, if you have a goal to write a book one day, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, doesn't matter, start building your brand now. Thank you.